Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Week 7 Studs and Duds film review recap, talking about whose stock is rising, whose stock is falling, both in terms of the teams and the individual players. A reminder, the ratings you see here do come from my Madden 19 custom roster. Yes, it's a video game, but those ratings do apply to how I perceive these players in real life as well. If you're a fan of my work on that roster and it adds value to your Madden experience, do consider contributing on my Patreon or just a PayPal donation. It's a free service I offer up to you guys. If you want to show your support, I'll leave those links in the description. And thank you in advance. So let's get into it here, talking about Week 7. Wasn't the most exciting week of the year, but any week in the NFL, there's always something to talk about, and we have lots of risers and fallers this week. So let's get right into it here, starting with the star of the week, Teron Armstead. This is a guy we haven't spent a lot of time talking about this year, but he really has come back and reemerged as one of the elite tackles in the NFL. A lot of the Saints' success this year have been thanks to him playing at a high level, staying healthy, and he really is having probably the best year of his career playing at an all-pro level. So he's going to get some of that respect he deserves. And then our dud of the week. Now, considering my opinions on Blake Bortles and how much I went off on the Jags for retaining him and really going into this season with him as plan A, B, and C, I haven't spent a ton of time here bashing Blake Bortles, but he is the dud of the week, getting benched here. A lot of Jags fans who were so ready to tell me I was wrong when I released them as number 23 in my power rankings. Yeah, Blake Bortles is a problem. And, you know, if this team had another option at quarterback, he would certainly be starting right now, but they just have to go back to Blake Bortles. So he now comes in as the 35th quarterback in the NFL for me. And frankly, based on how he's played the last 3 weeks, that still might be too high. This offense is literally predicated on crossing routes. Blake Bortles has basically 3 options every play. He's either going to hit that slant or that crossing route, or he's going to run, or he's going to find the check down. Some people are blaming the play calling. Well, when your quarterback has those 3 options as the only things he can do, newsflash, it's a little hard to play call. So Blake Bortles has been an absolute disaster this year. The Jags have a Super Bowl caliber roster outside of the quarterback position, and they really butchered this thing. You know, even if you do believe they should have re-signed him, I did not. I thought they should have done what the Vikings did with Case Keenum and looked to upgrade. But even if you do bring Blake Bortles back, you gotta bring someone else in here. Be the team that trades for Teddy Bridgewater. Sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. You gotta let your players know that the standard that's being set here isn't good enough. You can't just say, yep, we're good. This is our guy. Deal with it. So I'm sorry, Jacksonville fans. Maybe you can still pull out the division, but you're not winning the Super Bowl this year, not with him as your quarterback. So let's get into the games now. We're going to start with that Thursday night football game. Really not a whole lot to talk about here. We saw Denver just annihilate the Cardinals, who are just basically at rock bottom right now. Really, no one really to talk about on the Arizona side. Things are just a mess. And do they trade Patrick Peterson? I think they should, because he's really got about 2 years left. The Cardinals aren't winning in the next 2 years. You can get a first-round pick for him and really contribute towards building something here around Josh Rosen, who, all things considered, hasn't been a complete disaster. And then on Denver's side, this was a big win that they really needed. And they're going to have to play the Chiefs this week, and I don't know how well that's going to go in Arrowhead, but this definitely kept their season alive. And it was good to get some things going offensively, as they had really been faltering the last couple weeks. So just one riser in this game is going to be Billy Turner, who's been starting at right tackle for a few weeks now for the Denver Broncos. This guy that used to start for the Dolphins. I believe this is him. It's sometimes hard to keep track of these lower level linemen, but he's come in and held down the fort with Jared Valdir not able to play in there. Nothing crazy here, but a very serviceable lineman so far this year. So let's move on to what was a little bit more of an entertaining game, even though the Titans have really not been the definition of entertaining this year. So for those Titans, this game was in London. Kind of more of the same here. The defense played all right. They gave up a few big plays to the Chargers in this one, but kind of kept them in the game. And then Mariota continued to do his thing. Conservative game plan, looking like Alex Smith. Still not getting a ton of help from his receivers there, but still kind of concerned about Mariota's development this year, showing more signs for concern. Coming off what was a really down year last year. So definitely lower on the Titans right now. Again, it's the AFC South. They're not out of the division by any means, and this was a good Chargers team that they hung in there with, but really just no explosion from this team, frankly, on either side of the ball. And then for the Chargers, really good to get this win. It was by no means a convincing win, but Phillip Rivers continues to play as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year, right there with Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes. They're able to do this without Melvin Gordon, who's been one of the most valuable non-quarterbacks in the NFL this year, and the defense held their own. And this is a defense that after the bye should be getting Joey Bosa back. So things are really heating up for the Chargers. So let's talk about the studs and duds from this game. We've got quite a few. So for Tennessee, Dion Lewis, I'm sorry I lowered you last week. I'm a big Dion Lewis truther. And Tennessee virtually ran their entire offense through Lewis, identifying that he really is the best playmaker they have. And he rewarded them, and he made a lot of big plays in this game. So I'm just putting him right back where he was last week. Gonna instantly regret lowering him. Still a hell of a football player. And then Tajay Sharp starting to kind of reemerge here, basically by necessity. None of these receivers here have really stood out, but Tajay Sharp had a decent game here. He's done some things in the past, so he's going to go up to that 70 range there, the starter tier, 70 to 74. And then the corners for Tennessee, Malcolm Butler and Logan Ryan, both going to go down one this week. Malcolm Butler, a big free agent signing, has been a disaster. The coverage has been really bad from him for a few weeks now, and then Logan Ryan has dropped off as well. If it weren't for Adoree Jackson, who's had some nice games this year, the coverage unit for this Tennessee team would be in a lot of trouble. Just between Butler and Logan Ryan, you just don't have a lot of athleticism and speed to keep up with these faster receivers. We saw Tyrell Williams having a really big game here. And then Kevin Byard is going to come down as well. Now, I still think he's a really good safety, and because of some injuries at the strong safety position, they have asked Byard to play a lot more in the box than he did last year. I looked it up. Last year, he played half his snaps at free safety, half his snaps kind of in the box, kind of that nickel corner role. Well, this year, I actually got those numbers wrong. Last year, he was 2-to-1 in that free safety to strong safety. This year, he's splitting it half and half, and they're bringing him into the box a lot more. That's not where his specialty is. He's a rangy free safety, but he doesn't have necessarily that thumping ability of some of those bigger safeties. So while he's still incredibly valuable as that rangy center fielder, he is kind of proving that he might not have that full versatile range of some of those guys like Landon Collins or Malcolm Jenkins, and just the coverage in general has been down this year. It was a total breakout year last year. He's just not living up to that one really good year. So I still think he's a good player, but he is going to come down here. And then flipping over to the Chargers side of the ball, Phillip Rivers is going to get a +1 this week. It's probably about due time. He has really been incredible this whole season. And then Tyrell Williams is going to get a +1. A roller coaster season for him. A really slow start. Drops just plagued him like crazy to start the year, but starting to get some of that confidence back. And really his problem is confidence, consistency, and focus, composure. Like he's starting to play a lot better. He's got all the physical tools in the world, and he's really starting to show them yet again here. We'll see if he can maintain that or if he continues this roller coaster career that he's had. And then Dan Feeney, left guard for the Chargers, rated pretty high coming out of the draft last year, finally starting to kind of cement himself in terms of playing time, but unfortunately for him, he has not produced like you'd like to see. The PFF grades are very low for Feeney. The Chargers offensive line has actually been a little better than I thought it would be this year, but they did kind of take a step back with Feeney kind of as the full-time left guard in this game. We'll continue to monitor him. So moving on to the Dolphins, hosting Detroit. Not a ton of surprises in this game. I keep saying this, but I feel like Miami might be the team that I just have the strongest grasp on this year. Not an explosive offense, but a feisty defense, a fairly mentally tough team that's going to keep fighting even if they're against a much better team. But just talent-wise, when they play a team like Detroit, who's got a quarterback and some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, they're just outmatched. And that's exactly what we saw here. It was a good win for Detroit to just kind of reaffirm that they are a solid, playoff contending team. They go out and, are active at the trade deadline. They get a nose tackle to beef up that run defense. They're trying to get in the mix here in the NFC North and the NFC wildcard. So we'll see how they continue to play there. Let's talk about the studs and the duds here. All going to be on Detroit's side of the football. We're going to start with Kerryon Johnson. Huge game in this one. Just a super versatile running back. He's got the breakaway speed. He can run for power. He's shifty. And, I think some of those other teams that were picking ahead of them that took running backs, like Seattle and New England especially, are kind of scratching their heads, wondering how they missed out on Kerryon. And some of you are going to point out the fact that I thought this was a bad pick because I said they should have taken Darius Geis. I won't get into that. I will admit, I suppose I was off on Kerryon Johnson being this good. Who knows what Darius Geis would do in this situation. But regardless of all that, Kerryon Johnson has been extremely impressive this season as he looks to continue to get more and more reps. They still are giving LeGarrette Blount the ball, even though he's clearly like a quarter of the player that Kerryon is. And then we got a follower here, Marvin Jones, just falling off completely this year. Kind of had a big outlier season, I think, last year. A ton of contested catches, was really the guy that Stafford would just go to in crunch time. But now that he's got Kenny Golladay in there, he's just not looking Marvin Jones' way as much, less opportunities. Marvin Jones has never really been a guy that creates a ton of separation. So he's just kind of returning to the mean a little bit for Marvin Jones' standards. He's still a good receiver, but he's not a number one. He's more in that Mohamed Sanu, Nelson Aguilar range of player. Robert Woods, if you will. And then, Deshaun Hand. This guy's getting better every single week, and now he's going to be playing next to Damon Harrison, who's just going to eat up blocks. I mean, Deshaun Hand could be the defensive rookie of the year right now. He had like 8 hurries this week. He's just a freaking monster. He's going up every single week. He's almost gone up 10 overall already this year. So impressed with what Deshaun Hand is doing out there. And if you're not paying attention to him, you better start. And next we've got the Patriots at the Bears. Really fun game to watch. The Bears really benefited from some turnovers early that gave them short fields. So the 31 points I think is a little misleading. You had a Cordarrelle Patterson fumble on a kick return, and then kind of a fluky play where Sony Michel gets twisted around and fumbles from just extreme pain. So the Bears handed 2 very short fields. But I think the Patriots really kind of handled the Bears in this one. I will talk for a second about Trubisky because he's not on my studs and duds here, but was really getting hammered in social media that he had his worst game of the year. And I even echoed that in my power rankings before I'd actually watched the full game and a full sit down. I'd seen the red zone stuff. He wasn't great, don't get me wrong, but he did show some things in this game. I'm not like writing Mitch Trubisky off. I just don't think he's a very good quarterback right now. And he definitely has some Blake Bortles tendencies. I know I've said that in the past. What I mean by that is, he is eager to scramble early, but he has very good athletic ability that he showed in this game. He is clearly a high-end scrambling quarterback. And he can be a little trigger-happy like we saw earlier in Bortles' career before he became this really timid guy that was scared to throw any interceptions. So really, Trubisky's been all over the place. He's been pretty inaccurate, which is my biggest concern. I'm actually really impressed with his footwork, his release. He throws a beautiful-looking football. It just doesn't always go where it needs to go. The biggest thing I will say about Mitch is it just seems and feels like the game is moving way too fast for him. And that's not the biggest problem to have, just more experience and good coaching. That's something you can fix, but it's also really dangerous because you can develop some really bad tendencies if things just aren't making sense. And I don't know if I'm making any sense in saying that. I hope I am, but I'm not writing Trubisky off. He clearly has all the tools, but is just so inconsistent and all over the place right now. And it's a big reason I'm not completely buying into the Bears right now. So that's enough time on Trubisky. As far as the Patriots are concerned, they are who we thought they were. Defense still not very good, but the offense is going to be able to do whatever they want. And this was without Rob Gronkowski. But, Tom Brady, this offensive line, this scheme, the coach, Julian Edelman, it's just a machine. So let's move on and talk about the studs and duds in this game. Just one on New England's side, J.C. Jackson, a young corner, kind of out of nowhere here, but he played a lot of snaps in this game. I think it was like 40. He had a big one-handed interception at the end of the game, but was doing a good job in coverage. So entering the scene of relevance here, +3 from 64 to a 67. Continue to monitor him, the rookie out of Maryland. And then the Bears. We got a lot to talk about with this Bears team. Luckily, we already covered Trubisky, but this defense has struggled mightily in the last 3 weeks, ever since Khalil Mack has kind of slowed down, dealing with an ankle injury. You know, without him just wrecking things up front, you're really starting to see some holes on this defense and across this entire team. So Leonard Floyd, to start with, was almost my dud of the week. -3. He has been irrelevant this year. You would like to see him step up as a number 2 now. He's had to be the number 1 since he's been here, but now you got Khalil Mack on the other side, and he's not stepping up at all. I think he has just 3 hurries on the season or something like that, and you just can't find him on the field. So a really disappointing year for Floyd. I think it might be at the point where they need to start thinking about a replacement on the edge opposite of Khalil Mack for the future, because I just don't think it's Leonard Floyd right now. And then Danny Trevathan's been really bad. Roquan Smith has been really bad. This is just so surprising. I thought Roquan was going to be just a plug and play starting, stud cover linebacker, and he is still clearly learning a lot of things and dealing with the size disadvantage he has and not being able to rely so much on that athleticism like he did in college. Now, that said, I still think Roquan turns into a hell of a player. It just isn't that instant impact that I thought he would be. And just this rookie class in general that I thought would be really good has been disappointing. And then Jordan Howard is going to come down this week. 3 really uninspiring weeks in a row for Jordan Howard. Now, we know he's not a super explosive guy. It looked for a second like he might be improving those ball skills, becoming a more dual threat receiving back, but he's taken a step back in that department. I just think this is who Jordan Howard is. He's a very tactical running back. He's big and strong, but he's just not explosive enough to really make a massive impact on any game. Still a really good player, though. And then Eric Kush is going to go up here. He continues to fend off James Daniels, who I thought was going to plug right in at left guard, a second-round pick out of Iowa. But Eric Kush has offered so much in pass protection for this team as they try to keep things consistent with Mitch Trubisky and get him the best pass protection they can. Daniels might be the higher ceiling, better run blocker down the line, but Eric Kush, what he's doing in pass protection is just too valuable to this team at the moment. And then we got 2 more here, both receivers for Chicago. Allen Robinson has been a pretty massive disappointment in terms of being that true number 1 receiver and that go-to target for Mitch Trubisky. I still think Robinson's a good player, but he just hasn't been what he was 2 years ago, and I think it's time we start to turn the dial down on our expectations for Allen Robinson. And then we mentioned that rookie class being strangely disappointing for Chicago. Anthony Miller has been a total non-factor here. I had him coming out as just this elite short to intermediate weapon that I thought was going to be a great target for Mitch Trubisky. Now, I would like to see them try to get him more involved. Chicago leads the NFL in deep ball percentage right now, and that's not Anthony Miller's game. He's not a physical specimen, but he is a really sure-handed, good short to intermediate route runner, and he's really good with the ball in his hands after the catch. So I'd like to see them get him more involved on some of the more quick-hitting passing game stuff that they're just not fully utilizing right now. And a lot of that could be due to Mitch Trubisky's sort of, indecisiveness, pre-snap awareness. It could be some things that they're trying to get going that Mitch Trubisky just isn't executing. Kind of hard to say. So that was a long time on that game. Let's move on to the Bills at the Colts. This one was just a blowout. Made a lot of money on this game. The Colts are just a much better football team. They are very under the radar right now. I think they're going to do something similar to Oakland this week as they try to announce to the world that they are a relevant football team. They've got a good defense. They got a lot of good performances from total under the radar guys this week. We'll talk about all of those in a second. Andrew Luck is getting more and more healthy every week, it seems. He's just playing lights out right now. Now that I say that, he's probably due that point back that we took away from him 3 weeks ago. He's done nothing but looked great since then. Maybe next week after he plays that Oakland defense, if you can even call it a defense. It's more of a doormat. And then for Buffalo, I mean, there's just nothing left to say about them. They're flat offensively, like completely. Derek Anderson's not the answer here, and they don't have anyone to get the ball to, and they don't have any blocking. Defense is really good, though. They just are always on the field, which is not going to work. So our studs and duds from this game, we'll start on the Bills side. Two players that dropped earlier this year, two players that had massive breakout seasons last year that just aren't living up to those breakout seasons. Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, the two safeties here. Two good players that just are not living up to the expectations they set for themselves after last year. And these are both players that, you know, if I'm a team that needs safety help, Kansas City, Green Bay, even Atlanta, depending how they feel about their season, I would be calling Buffalo right now and seeing what it takes to get these guys, because neither of these guys are really going to be parts of the future here in Buffalo. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the Colts. We mentioned all these kind of under the radar guys sort of breaking out for the Colts. It starts with Mike Mitchell. They picked him off of free agency like 2 weeks ago. Obviously a former Steeler, a guy who's had a really good career, but I thought he was done. No, he is back here in Indianapolis. He's going to get a +3 this week. It definitely could be more because he really has been lights out here for the Colts. Granted, against the Bills, we'll see how he holds up against some better offenses as we move forward. But a great pickup there, it looks like, for Mike Mitchell. And then Mo Alley Cox. Remember him? VCU, Big Ten, not Big Ten, the March Madness basketball player. Well, he's quietly been developing as a tight end here in Indianapolis. He plays like 25, 30 snaps this game, catches a decent amount of balls, and he's blocking pretty well. So he's a relevant player now for this Colts team. Similar to what they've done with Mo, butchering these names right now, Eric Swope, a former basketball player at tight end for them as well. And then you got Mark Glowinski, former 5th-round pick in 2015 for the Seahawks. Fans would remember him. But he comes in, plugs in at right guard, and had a lights-out game. We'll obviously have to continue to monitor if he can play at that level, but an athletic guy who seems to have found a new home here in Indianapolis. Not sure if he's going to keep that starting job or not, but has at least proven that he can play in a pinch at guard. And then Chester Rogers with a decent game this week as well. He gets a +1. And then our last guy here, Marlon Mack, running back that I'm not super high on. He reminds me a lot of James Starks, a bit of a straight line runner, but he's starting to give reasons to believe that he might be more than that, with a little more explosiveness, a little better in the receiving game. He's now had a couple really good weeks in a row. Now it's a good offense, and he's got a great opportunity as a team that really hasn't invested in this running back position at all. So he really has a full-on opportunity here. So the production should be there. We'll continue to monitor how he looks on film, and if this guy could be the future running back of this team, or if he's more of a placeholder for a future investment. Our next game here, Carolina against the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles just fell apart late in this game, really felt like they were in control for most of the game, but some late game heroics again for the Panthers. Not sure how sustainable this game plan is going to be for the Panthers, who are underdogs at home in their own stadium against the Ravens this week. Should be a really fun game this week. But the Eagles clearly not the same Super Bowl caliber team at the moment as they were last year, obviously. And then Carolina kind of was who I think they are in this game. Feisty defense, pretty average offense. Cam Newton just kind of makes some plays. Seems like they've got to be pretty creative to score offensively just because, their outside receivers aren't all that. So the studs and duds this game, the offensive line for Philly, I think, is the reason. You wonder, why aren't the Eagles as good this year? Well, yeah, Carson Wentz hasn't been exactly what it was last year. He's probably still trying to get back to speed coming off that ACL injury, but the offensive line not doing him any favors this year. This was the reason the Eagles were so dominant last year, was the offensive line play, and they're just not playing at the same level. I don't know if these guys are just getting older. Well, they are getting older, obviously, but is that the reason they're playing poorly? Because you got Jason Peters, who's 36, Jason Kelsey's into his 30s now, and Brandon Brooks, he's younger, but definitely not playing like he's capable. So all three of these guys are going to come down, and until they can really get back to that authoritative offense up front, it's going to stay this way. And then on defense, Bruce Hector, rookie out of Central Florida. I liked him coming out. He's getting some more playing time here, making an impact up front. And then Nigel Bradham has had a pretty down year since coming off that suspension. Was a guy who was, I think, the highest rated cover linebacker in the NFL last year. Definitely not playing at those standards right now, so he's going to come down one. So now moving on, Houston at Jacksonville. We already kind of hammered into Blake Bortles and this Jags team, and I've spent a lot of time talking about the Jags, so we won't talk about them. For Houston, obviously I'm recording this after the Thursday night game. They're coming on. Deshaun Watson's playing much better than he did in the first quarter of the season. The offensive line's still a huge concern. You hate that Will Fuller just got hurt, but that's a Week 8 thing. And then defensively, they're just a really solid defense because of that front seven. I still got worries about that secondary, but I don't know how much that matters when you got J.J. Watt, Clowney, and those guys up front playing like that. So as far as the studs and duds are concerned, Jags fans, you might want to just cover your ears, shield your eyes. It's not a good week for the fallers here for the Jags. Talked about Blake Bortles, but Keelan Cole has fallen off the face of the earth. He's been really bad lately. He's going to come down one. Then Andrew Norwell, we've talked about him a lot, being possibly the worst free agent signing of the year. I mean, this guy, he was an undrafted guy coming out of Ohio State, really fit into that kind of zone scheme that was very pass protection oriented with Cam Newton there, and he fit in very well. But that's a system that we've seen do a really good job developing these linemen. And then Andrew Norwell comes here to Jacksonville, where they actually put a lot more weight on those linemen to get push, and he's just not succeeding nearly as much as he did in Carolina. And they're paying him a ton of money to be what has been this year a well below average guard. So that's been a problem. And then for the secondary, Barry Church is just getting old and not covering like he used to be able to, and Jalen Ramsey not playing nearly like he did last year. He has not come down at all this year, but it is time. He is not playing excellent this year. He's still obviously a really good corner, but is not setting himself apart as that 2 or 3 best corners in the NFL right now, even though he's definitely still up there, obviously. So next up, we've got the Browns, who were in Tampa this week. Not much really to say about Tampa. Kind of a meh game on both sides. Some turnovers. Just kind of a classic Jameis Winston game. And then for the Browns, kind of more of the same. Some decent defense, some holes here and there. Baker, a good one drive, bad the next. Don't really have, honestly, a ton of takeaways from this game. My opinion really hasn't changed on either of these teams. So let's get into the studs and duds. Nick Chubb, living up to the hype after they trade away Carlos Hyde, making Nick Chubb that feature back. He's looked damn good this year. If he keeps playing like this, he's going to rise pretty quick. I liked Chubb a lot coming out of that draft. And then Cameron Brate, as we flip over to the not the Tennessee side, the Tampa Bay side, Brate's been a big disappointment, and they gave him a pretty big contract. And I didn't really understand that at the time because you got O.J. Howard there, who is now possibly the best tight end in the NFL. You got Kelsey, obviously, but O.J. Howard has been lights out regardless. And Cameron Brate, not a great receiving threat right now. Never really was. He's just a sure-handed dude. But he's not blocking either, so he's been real bad this year. Kind of a Kyle Rudolph-esque player right now. And then Carl Nassib has actually been playing really well for Tampa. He's been their best edge player over the last 3 weeks. Now, I will note I was really hard on Jason Pierre-Paul the last few weeks. He finally showed up in this game. Good. Let's keep seeing that. You're getting paid a ton of money to get after the quarterback, and this was the first week you've done that this year. So let's see you do that again. Not against the Browns, maybe. And you might get some of those points back, but Carl Nassib, getting back to him, had a really good week. A bit of a revenge, extra inspiration there, but he has been good the last few weeks, and he's getting more and more time. Definitely looking like a good pickup there for Tampa, and he's still young, and a guy with actually a decent ceiling, so we'll keep watching him. And then Vita Vea, -2. They bring you in here to stop the run. They pick you early in the first round. Their safeties stink, and Derwin James is sitting there playing lights out for the Chargers. This was such a bad freaking pick. Just in general, in my opinion, you don't draft a nose tackle in the first round in 2018. The run defense doesn't matter that much. You can find these guys, and Vita Vea offers nothing in terms of pass rush. Some people in the draft are like, oh, he's not just Danny Shelton, who literally did the exact same thing at Washington. Vea just happened to be a little more athletic. Like, there's people that are like, oh, he's going to be able to rush the passer. Well, he's in there and he's been playing, and nope. Actually, he's just a nose tackle. He's just there to supposedly stop the run, even though he's not doing that very well. So that's pretty harsh on Vita Vea, but I mean, he really has been a bust so far. I don't really see that turning around, especially when you look at the other weaknesses on this team. So I'm sorry to keep harping on Tampa Bay this year, but I just don't get what their front office was doing this offseason. So next up, we got Minnesota at the Jets. Minnesota really took care of business in this one. They're heating up. They get Everson Griffin back this week. This is going to be a super telling game against the Saints this week, and there's really no other way to put it. As for the Jets, more turnovers in this one. A lot of just Jets things on like special teams and stuff. They have their problems. They've got some ups. They've got some downs. They actually were kind of in this game for a good chunk, and then it just fell apart in the end. All in all, the Vikings are just probably a much better overall, well-coached, more talented team, and that's exactly how we saw it play out in this one. But we do have all risers here for the Jets. No movement for the Vikes. I thought they kind of played up to snuff for where we've got them right now. Christopher Herndon is going to go up one here for the Jets. They need to stop fooling themselves and putting like Eric Tomlinson in there, who dropped a big potential third down conversion here when the Jets were still in this game, I think in the third quarter. Like, Christopher Herndon is clearly the best tight end they have here. He's the rookie. Like, just stop fooling around and rotating these guys. Just make him your guy. And then we got Darryl Roberts, who's played back-to-back really good weeks at corner for the Jets. Kind of out of nowhere here, but playing well. And then, more out of nowhere here, Brandon Copeland. I know nothing about this player, but he's playing very well on the edge. He's doing well in coverage as well. Kind of a versatile 3-4 outside linebacker starting to come on for New York. And then speaking of the linebacker, Darren Lee had some good weeks in a row, really improving his coverage ability, which has been a big problem for him. He's still incredibly young. It's his third year. I think he's 23. So the future's starting to look brighter for Darren Lee and this Jets defense. Moving on, the Saints at the Ravens. There's games where I say really not a lot of surprises. Well, my score prediction for this game was 24-23. So literally no surprises in this game for me. The Saints offense able to do enough. The Ravens offense not able to do enough. Basically what it came down to there. It's an offensive league. And yet again, number one offense against the number one defense. The number one offense prevails. Now, yeah, Justin Tucker misses like the first extra point of his career, but that was also like a late drive that put them in position to, have that opportunity. So by no means is it to say that the Saints didn't deserve this win, because they went in as underdogs and took care of business in this game. So let's keep moving, talk about the studs and duds from this one. We talked about Terron Armstead already, our star of the week. But a player for the Saints team, as, around him things have been kind of rainbows and butterflies, but for Marcus Williams, the struggles continue here. After probably being the reason they didn't win the Super Bowl last year, things continuing to go poorly for Marcus Williams, who is now rotating with Kurt Coleman and Von Bell at safety, who are by no means stars. Marcus Williams absolutely broke out as a rookie, but he has failed to meet those expectations completely. Really hasn't had any good games this year. He's just been a rotational free safety at this point this year. Still, a lot of potential. Good chance he reemerges, but just has not been playing worthy of any kind of 80-plus ranking at all. And frankly, 78 is much higher than he's played this year. And then we'll flip it over to the Ravens side of the ball. John Brown starting to impress this year, especially in the last few weeks. He's been the guy for this offense, and really the number one reason this team's been able to score points this year. He's definitely reemerging, and if he keeps playing like this, he'll be up into that 80 range before too long. And then we got Marshall Yanda. Kind of a trend this week is looking at some of these more veteran linemen that we've sort of kept in that true superstar tier, but some guys just, getting up there in age that just are not really playing like they once did. And obviously Yanda's still a really good guard, but just not the same impact he's had in the past. Obviously coming off a serious injury, getting up there in age. So he's going to come down a little bit. Probably a Hall of Fame guard, though, Marshall Yanda. And then we got Jimmy Smith playing really poorly coming off of the 4-game suspension. He's 30 years old and has been getting kind of picked on right now. He'll probably turn it around a little bit. He's a talented player, but has not been playing well to this point. Moving on, we've got the Rams at the 49ers. Not going to spend a lot of time on this game at all. The Niners stink. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it at that. No takeaways from the Niners in this game. And then for the Rams, just taking care of business. The offense played like we knew they could. The defense up front, just dominant. Just one riser in this game. It's Malcolm Brown, who gets in this game later, taking Todd Gurley out of the picture as they were up by so many points. But Malcolm Brown is the backup they trust here, and he's played well every time he's been in there, so he's going to get a little love. And that's it. Moving on to the Cowboys at Redskins. Fun game, pretty back and forth. Well, I wouldn't say back and forth. Washington was in control for most of this game, and then Dallas kind of storms back, but definitely a competitive game all the way through. Washington continues to play scrappy defense, forced another big turnover in this one. Alex Smith kind of doing his thing. He doesn't have the best weapons out there, but they're running the ball, taking care of the football, doing what they need to. It's not the highest ceiling team, the Redskins, but they've just been finding ways to win games. And then for Dallas, they've got some problems here. The defense still played pretty good in this game. Offensively, I thought Dak Prescott did a really good job creating offense this week, but he was really running for his life. And that's going to transition well into the studs and duds here, because the first three players we're going to talk about are all fallers for Dallas on that offensive line. Tyron Smith continuing to fall this year, just simply not playing like we've known him to be able to do in the past. Connor Williams, a well-regarded guard coming out of Texas, has not played well at all. Actually played tackle at Texas, but not playing well at guard this year. And Lyle Collins on the right side of that line, taking a step back this year. Is Travis Frederick that pivotal to the success of this offensive line? It seems so, because Dak has been running for his life all season long. And then flipping over to the Redskins side of the ball, Jordan Reed, and it used to be like if he's in the game, he's a dominant tight end in this league. It's just a matter of injuries. Well, this year he's been healthy. He just hasn't really taken over games like he used to. He's probably just dealt with so many injuries. He's lost a step. He's still playing decent. I still think he's a good weapon, but just not that elite weapon that he was 2-3 years ago when he was healthy. And then a couple guys on the Redskins defense, two guys that are really big in forcing turnovers that has been such a big impact for this team. Ryan Kerrigan has really turned it on the last couple weeks. He gets a +1. And then DJ Swearinger getting a little more love here, continuing his run from last year as one of the better safeties in this league and an intimidating presence in the secondary for the Redskins. So a couple games left here. We got the Bengals, who visited the Chiefs. On the Bengals side, we'll chalk it up as a bad week at the office. They've shown some nice things this week, or this year rather. This week, not so much. We'll just chalk it up as they ran into a buzzsaw. I don't think anyone was going to beat the Chiefs this week in primetime in Arrowhead. They came to play. And the Chiefs kind of reminding us that, they weren't able to go into Foxborough and win a week ago, but they're going to be ready for that rematch, and it's going to be great when we get to see, most likely, the Patriots playing the Chiefs, maybe in Arrowhead in the playoffs. So the studs and duds from this game: Patrick Mahomes. Everyone's waiting every week. Oh, is Mahomes going up this week? Like, oh, you're so low on Mahomes. It's like, you guys, he's played like 7 games, and you already want him ranked in the 90s? Yeah, he's been freaking lights out. He's been incredible. I'm buying in, all that. But he hasn't been perfect. Like, he's still thrown a decent amount of picks. He's missed some throws. Like, he is not perfect. He's still a young quarterback. He's still learning. He's going to continue to get better. So you like everything Pat Mahomes has been showing this year. Super encouraging. And then Kareem Hunt's going to get a little love here. Just the things he's able to do from his vision and his balance, just to shake guys off like they're nothing. It's just incredible. I love watching Kareem Hunt, man. Sammy Watkins, he's going to come down, just has really disappeared the last few weeks. That's simple enough. He's basically only had one good game this year. And then on the defensive side, Dee Ford continues to return to that number 2 edge rush status that he had a couple years ago and then just fell off the face of the earth. Well, he's kind of back now, continuing to go up. If he keeps playing, he'll keep going up throughout the year. And then our last game here, we've got the Giants, who visited the Falcons. A bit of a lower scoring game than I had anticipated, but really was kind of what you would expect. And that is basically the Giants somehow managing to suck on offense against the worst defense in the NFL. The Falcons recognizing that they actually don't have to score 35 points in this game. kind of a more conservative game plan in this one. I think they could have scored more if they wanted to, but Eli Manning and this offense, you don't need 35 points. So the Giants are a joke. Saquon's great, but they should have taken Darnold. That is so clear to me, and I'm not going to get into it. I've been very clear the Giants screwed up. They should have taken Darnold. Saquon's great, but now you maybe get Justin Herbert. Sweet. Congrats. Darnold's going to be tearing it up in your own stadium for a different team for the next 15 years. Good work. Enjoy 6-7 wins a year with your mediocre Justin Herbert and a great running back for the next decade. Good job. Studs and duds from this game. That's all going to be on the Atlanta side. I will give credit where credit is due. Matt Ryan has been pretty much lights out for the better part of 2 months now, outside of that Philadelphia game to kick off the year. Now, that said, Matt Ryan, he's going to go on the road for 6 of his next 9 games, and he is going to struggle. That is why he is rated as low as I have him here. But you put him in that dome, and you buy him some time, and you give him those weapons, he can execute. And, he's not elite, in my opinion, but he has definitely been very impressive in the last several weeks. So credit where credit's due. He's going to get a +1 this week. And then Alex Mack, we mentioned some of these older linemen getting a second look. The Falcons line has not played very well this year. Alex Mack has taken a step back, and then Ryan Schrader here, another veteran, has dropped off his production as well. So those guys are both going to get a -2. Atlanta, it's been fun. But like I said, 6 of the next 9 games on the road. I think the season is over. Maybe next year when you get your guys back healthy. This team just is not built to go on the road in cold weather and win important football games, though they might knock off a few because they are really good offensively. So that's going to do it. That's Studs and Duds this week. We're going to get out of here. Hit that like button if you made it this far. It helps me out a lot. Do consider the support, Patreon, PayPal, all those links in the description. Follow me on Twitter at @TFG_football. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy football. Cheers. We'll see you next time.